Hi, my name is Stephen Beal. I'm going to be practicing for you on this video and demonstrate some problems that I have with focal dystonia and some of the thought processes that I've had to try to heal. At this point, I am definitely not healed, but I am working on it and trying to get better. A little personal history about myself. I grew up with two musician parents. I started playing violin when I was 6, which is almost exactly 40 years ago now. I took up viola in junior high school just because friends wanted to play string quartets, but I didn't make the full switch to viola until I was in my 30s when I did my doctorate. I started having problems with focal dystonia around the end of the first year of my doctorate. When I was taking violin lessons, I had a teacher who asked me to keep all my fingers down and also to pluck the string whenever I would release it. He was a very good teacher, but I think possibly this contributed to my dystonia, and it must also be said that he also has dystonia, and he was a great player before he had it. I'm sure he still is. So my issues are that my fingers will curl down when I play, and also that my third finger, ring finger, gets stuck. And so these are some of the problems I'm having. I'm preparing for an audition for a local orchestra, and so I'll be playing some excerpts and just giving the thought processes that I have as I'm trying to practice these excerpts and some of the things that are going on with my left hand. Finally, I was very, very fortunate to work with two people who helped me with dystonia. One person helped me quite a bit, and her approach is one that I still use today, and then the other was the famous Joaquin Farias. I got to spend a week with him in Toronto back in 2015. Some of the things they said seem to contradict each other, but I'm still trying to work that out. So, I can play all this from memory, it's fine. I'll start with the Mrs. Mozart Symphony No. 35. So, if you have some patience, this video will be about 14 minutes or so. If you're bored by this, then go find another channel to watch. But if you do want to watch me practice, or if you are interested in focal dystonia and have some thoughts about it, please share those thoughts in the comments down below. And if you are doing research on focal dystonia, please hit me up, because I would definitely like to be involved more in that. So, I will begin practicing now. Okay, so this just gives a taste. You can see what my fingers are doing while I'm playing. I'm not able to match the notes, the bow with my fingers very well, so it's coming out very messy. And then the fingers are, the third finger is spazzing out. So I'll slow it down so that I can really pay attention to listening, feeling the string, and feeling the string with both my bow hair and also with my left hand fingertips. I'm still missing that F sharp. And when I put my second finger down, that's when my third finger wants to go down. So I could focus on simply letting it relax so that it does nothing. That's what I want to feel like, is that my finger is not doing anything. It's just simply reacting to the note. It should feel a good energy flow with just be very easy. Now, if I focus on the finger itself, it's going to make it worse, because it just reinforces those pathways of trying to move the finger. But if I focus on listening to the note and on feeling the string, outward focus of attention, this, by the way, is in a book by Gabriela Wolf called Attention and Motor Skill Learning, which I would highly recommend. This is what I'm trying to focus on. So. Even when I put my first finger down, my third finger wants to go down. So I don't know if the nerves are fused, or if it's just simply the brain is misperceiving movement or what. But even when I put my first finger down, the third finger wants to curl. There are two other things that I notice when I'm playing. One is that the dystonia seems to kick in more when I have sequences of notes, because the brain, I'm guessing, tends to think in sequences. So if I just simply play a trill, my third finger is fine. It works fine. And if I play a trill with first and second, it doesn't feel all that different as it did before I had dystonia. My third finger still wants to stay up. But the minute I start playing a sequence of notes, then, that's when the finger wants to kick in. That's when the dystonia wants to kick in. So that's one thing that I notice. Another thing that I'm noticing is that, I'll go just a little bit later in this excerpt here. Or even earlier. Or even earlier when I have this. I have to reach for these notes, and obviously I'm still more new to the viola than I am to the violin, and when I have to reach for notes, the reach is further than it was for violin. So I don't know if that has anything to do with what may have caused the dystonia. When I took lessons from this violin teacher who had me keep all my fingers down and pluck the strings, he had advised me at the time not to play viola, so I didn't for about 2 years. And then in 2006, I got a job playing at a summer festival where I was playing viola in the orchestra, but also playing violin solos. And I think it was after then that maybe the ball started to get rolling for dystonia, but I didn't notice it until at the spring of 2008. That's when I started to notice that there was a problem. And I think it was by 2009 that I got the problem diagnosed. And it was about 2011 when I finally started going to somebody for help. But what I think may be happening is that my hand, besides the finger pulling down, I think the hand seems to want to shrink inward. So it's pulling inward. I can't simply relax and allow it to stretch. It seems to want to pull inward. At least that's what my thinking is on it. So what I could do for this passage is just simply do these notes back and forth and just allow the hand to expand. One thing I also notice is that when I want to play second finger by itself, the third finger wants to curl, and particularly if I want to do vibrato. It's very hard to keep it up. I have to really allow it to stay up, and even then I know it's still hitting the string. So it's not like it's just simply free to, unless I really focus on it. So and a lot of times if I just start with second finger, there's a little blip, which I guess you may have heard when I was just playing it now. So anytime I initiate something with energy, sometimes it seems to want to cause the third finger to do this. Last time what I did is that I focused on only listening. So it's like I'm allowing my fingers to move without making them move. So in other words, when I listen for the notes force my fingers to move. In the same way, when we talk, we're not conscious of what our tongue and our mouth is doing. We just simply say the words as we hear them because we learn how to talk by listening. We listen and imitate when we were little kids, or even later if we had to learn a new language. And no one taught us now, move your tongue to the left or move your tongue up or down. We just simply heard the words and we imitated the sounds. So in the same way, I'm listening for that sound that I want. And then my fingers do work better when I do that. I just have to, I have to focus on that and not be distracted by how my fingers are moving. And a lot of times what happens is that if there is a little blip, then my focus goes right back to my fingers because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And I have to just keep the focus on listening only. So. Now that was fairly successful, but it's also way under tempo. So at some point I'm going to have to play this at about 144 or at least 120 to the half note. And right now it's probably about, that was probably about 80 or 84. So I have to work it up somehow without triggering the fingers to become dystonic again. So. Now, again, the ear can hear way faster than the fingers can play, because the ear can hear anything that it hears, no matter how fast it is. So if you think about it that way, the ear can hear faster than the fingers can play. So because of that, I can listen ahead for the notes and stay ahead of my fingers wanting the trigger, if that makes any sense. That's the thinking, that's the theory that I'm working with. It's just a matter of executing it. So the first two were okay. The last one was definitely problematic. And, you know, I've noticed that anything with high third finger, you know, C sharps, G sharps, you know, anything with high third finger tends to trigger the dystonia more. When I worked with the person who helped me at first, we would do 5-finger scales. And that was really helpful, but the only thing that I was wondering was, well, what about other finger patterns? Well, on one hand, if you're focusing on different finger patterns, then you're putting your focus back on your fingers again. But on the other hand, if you don't do the other finger patterns, then you'll never know how to overcome the dystonia in those other finger patterns. So I guess that's still an unanswered question that I'm trying to figure out as I practice. But another problem that's related to the dystonia is, as I mentioned, that the violin teacher that I had back in the 2000s had asked me to keep fingers down. Well, we always keep fingers down to a certain extent when we have string crossings, because that's the only way. That makes a difference in the sound. The sound is a lot clearer if you have that little double step in between. So when I have that little string crossing, I'm keeping 1 and 3 down. But then how do I do that without the third finger wanting to trigger and not lift? Because that's what was happening before. Of course, you know, the bow is also not getting the best sound out of the string. I'm going to pause this video right now, and I'll come back to it, but hopefully this gives you all things to observe, especially if you're interested in the topic of focal left-hand dystonia. Thank you.